There comes a time in the career of every basketball player where you just have to hang them up and retire from playing the competitive game. But sometimes you can find the fountain of youth in the most unexpected years. A quick search and you can find a few older guys who went back to play college football at a D1 level, including a 40-year-old receiver for University of South Carolina. I always wondered if some 30 or 40-year-old retired from the NFL or Major League Baseball, had some eligibility left, and used their name to get a shot at the court, or a veteran separated from the military and walked on while getting a degree. Someone had to have a wild story about being the oldest college basketball player. And what I found was indeed wild. I found Ken Paul Mink, a 73-year-old college basketball player. Not what I expected. I was looking for someone in maybe their 40s or even 50s. At 70, I didn't expect anyone to even attempt to play the modern game. How did this come to be? At a cursory glance, it looked like a man who lost his chance in college due to some bad luck, and then found a redemption arc, culminating with the headline here. But what's the full story? For that, we go way back to the early 1950s, when Ken played high school basketball, specifically his junior year, when he was kicked off the team. When asked about this incident, his best friend, Dacker Combs, said, "We didn't make the starting five. We were kind of subs, bench warmers. One time he bought a magazine and brought it and sat on the bench. We didn't like our coach. Naturally, we're going to sit over there, malcontents. We got kicked off the team, and the team went to the state tournament." When Ken was asked about this, he said this was about 20 games into the 1953-54 season, and the coach got pissed because he thought they were not being serious enough on the bench. He admitted he's a kid, he'd mess around, but he didn't think it was that serious. He was the sixth man on the team, playing significant minutes during the season. He claimed he got kicked off the team with no warning. The team, even without Ken, kept on winning, going 32-2, eventually beating the number one team in the state in the first round of the 16-team state tournament before losing to the eventual state champion. Ken does claim he was offered a shot at returning to the team that season with a few games left, but declined because he wasn't in good playing shape by then. According to Ken, several people have told him they would have won state that year had he stayed on the team. He went back the next year and led the team in scoring until he got sick with the flu. The coach who kicked him off the year prior recommended him for a basketball scholarship to a few colleges. He said he got 3 to 4 offers before settling on Lee's College, which was close to home. So he'd go to Jackson, Kentucky. There, he attended Lee's College and played on the basketball team. It wasn't the most prestigious college when it came to basketball, but they were decent. Unfortunately for Ken at the program, his time was cut short due to him pulling a prank on the coach during his sophomore year. As a result, drastic measures were taken, and Ken was expelled from the university and kicked off the team. At this point, Ken had no other choice but to continue down a different path. He joined the Air Force. After 4 years, he got out, worked as a journalist for 38 years. He became an editor with the Knoxville News Sentinel, the Kingsport Times, the Harrisburg Daily News Record, before retiring in 1999. Even as Ken's life changed over the years after getting kicked off the team, he never gave up his goal of playing basketball. He played in military tournaments and recreation leagues. Even in retirement, Ken felt he still needed to finish what he started in college. Losing his basketball career because of a prank he claimed he never did haunted him. He wanted to play college ball. So in 2007, at 73 years old, Ken made it his mission to get onto a college basketball program. As a player, after numerous emails, Ken finally got an answer from a coach, Randy Nesbitt, at Roane State, giving him a spot on the team. Ken was in shock and happy, as Coach Nesbitt loved the email and admitted he's a sucker for a good story like this. Just like that, Ken Mink was a member of Roane State basketball team in his 70s. In the beginning, Ken struggled to adapt and compete with the younger teammates, but slowly and surely made improvements, learning the sets and showcasing some fundamental skills that even surprised the coach. Ken was stated that the enemy is time itself, and he's Don Quixote. He said, "I may not be able to beat age, but I'm going to put up a hell of a fight. I wanted to prove that even though people reach senior class, there are things they can achieve in life." The day finally came that Ken got his moment. Checking in late to a blowout game versus King College and drawing a foul, he would sink both his free throws and write his name in the history books as the oldest player to ever score in a college basketball game. The rest of the season went better than expected for him, playing in 7 games while scoring in 3 of them. Ultimately, he would finally return to something that was taken from him 50 years ago. And this time, looks like he'll leave on his own terms. As for playing at D1 level, Coach Mike Sutton at Tennessee Tech University invited Meek to walk on as a player in the 2010-11 season, but the NCAA told Sutton that Mink had no more NCAA eligibility because of the 5-4 rule, which requires college athletes to complete their 4 years of eligibility in a 5-year period. Luckily for Mink, the NCAA is strict about the rules of age and eligibility. Junior colleges have no such limitations, as you can play basketball on the team as long as you meet your academic requirements, which is how he played for Roane State. Now, when this story broke in 2008, ESPN conducted an investigation into the 1956 prank that got Ken suspended and revealed that he did not do it. But was there more going on? Lee's College is now Hazard Community and Technical, and a reporter was able to track down Mr. Williams, who's a Lee's fan, former student, an unofficial historian for the school's basketball program. He remembered Ken and said that Ken's sophomore year was the first year of new head coach William Krause. And he was a very strict coach. He changed the team's offense from a half-court set where Ken excelled to a more difficult transition offense, where he wanted players to run the floor and create shots. The hard-headed young Ken and the coach found themselves at odds. Now, after how Ken viewed his high school dismissal, could he have quit on his own terms after a temper tantrum for not fitting into the offense, and used being blamed for the prank as an excuse to leave? His own daughter has said he refused to be accused of a prank and left to join the Air Force on his own terms. Additionally, she remembers moving a lot as a kid because he would pop off at the mouth and either get fired or quit and storm out. Others who knew Ken in college referred to him as a rabble-rouser. The former president of the university was still alive at the time and reached out. He said he didn't remember Ken and certainly didn't expel him for a prank. As you look deeper at Ken, you see, while there are falsities to his story, he mostly lives on the edge of the truth. Maybe he's not trying to change the way other people see him. In fact, maybe this is just the way he truly views himself. In a resume in the late 1980s, Ken listed himself as a graduate of Lee's University and Arkansas State University. Neither were true. There's a magazine he claimed to have written for that appears to have not existed. 2 more magazines he claims to have written for that don't remember him, although they say that could be their mistake. He was once fired as an editor of a newspaper, and sources there said it was because he allegedly forged 2 letters to the editor himself in defense of a controversy. Now, in Ken's defense, he says he remembers one of the magazine's stories, not the other one, but maybe it was the magazine's fault that they just didn't remember. He did get fired from that newspaper, but he says it was for personality conflict, not the 2 letters. As for the resume, he says, everybody exaggerates on those things a little, don't they? And then the basketball historian confirmed someone else did admit to doing that prank years later, but Ken had already been expelled from the school at the time. There was a moment after the game at Roane State when he was surrounded by reporters and cameramen, moments before the tape began to roll. Ken is talking mostly to himself and is heard saying, "I gotta think of something outrageous to say." So sure, Ken is complicated, a victim, a storyteller, a prima donna, a dead-eye shooter who needs an open look. The same at 73 as he'd been at 20. He is what he has always been. That seems strangely impressive. Nothing can make Ken different, not even this. Mink was ruled ineligible to play for the second semester, and Roane State was forced to forfeit a game for using an ineligible player. Ken had dropped a Spanish class he was failing during the first semester, and that resulted in a shortage of the 12-hour minimum credit requirement. He took a college-approved online course to gain the required college hours and was ruled academically eligible by Roane State. According to Mink, he was administratively ineligible by the National Junior College Athletic Association for the second semester because of that technical requirement regarding Roane State's delayed reporting of an online class. Roane State appealed the ruling, noting that Mink successfully completed a course from Strayer University to achieve the required number of credits that semester. However, the appeal was denied. The last few games were going to be tough, though, and Ken probably would not have played anyway. But how tragic for the story to end twice in such similar fashion. Once again, his past is repeating itself. He doesn't finish the season. Last time he left quietly, disappearing into the curves of Kentucky Highway 15. This time, he does it differently. He talks of a lawsuit. He writes a rap song. He begins looking for a recording studio. This story will end on his terms, in the spotlight. Was this the ultimate redemption story? Is this a story about history repeating itself if we're unable to learn and grow from our mistakes? Or is this simply the story of a 73-year-old hooper living the dream one last time? I'm not sure. Ken is a wild guy, and probably the oldest man to ever play college basketball for a long time.